For thousands of years, spies, prisoners, and even lovers have all shared a secret language, one that lives between the lines, totally hidden from sight. Today, we're diving deep into the fascinating, clandestine world of invisible ink. Welcome to the unseen language of secrets.
I just love this quote from Carlos Ruiz Zafón. It really hits the nail on the head, doesn't it? It suggests that the most important stories, the most dangerous plots, the really pivotal moments in history, well, they're often the ones that were never meant to be seen in the first place.
So, here's our game plan. We're going to start with a basic science, how it all works. Then we'll take a trip from ancient Rome all the way to the World Wars and the Cold War. And finally, we'll look at why this ancient craft still, believe it or not, matters today. It's a constant battle of innovation versus detection. Okay, let's get into it. Before we jump into all the spies and the scandals, we kind of need to understand the fundamental magic here. How do you make words just disappear and then reappear? It pretty much all boils down to two main types. Over on the left, you've got your organic inks. And yeah, this is stuff you could find in your kitchen or, well, even your own body. Things like lemon juice, milk, or urine. What these do is they actually alter the paper's fibers. So when you heat it up, the writing oxidizes and turns brown way faster than the rest of the page. The message just pops out. Simple, right? But super effective. Then, on the right, you've got sympathetic inks. Now this is the real spycraft. We're talking complex chemical formulas that are completely invisible until you apply a very specific chemical developer, which kicks off a reaction and boom, the writing appears. Now what's so cool is seeing how these basic ideas were used to literally shape history. I mean, this was a tool used by everyone from Roman poets giving advice to cheating wives, all the way up to the guys who founded the United States. And let's be clear, this is not some newfangled invention. Just look at this timeline. This stuff has deep, deep roots. Pliny the Elder was writing about it back in the 1st century. The Roman poet Ovid was teaching lovers to use fresh milk to hide their messages even before that. By the time the Renaissance rolls around, people like Giovanni Battista della Porta were publishing entire books filled with recipes. And as we're about to see, it became a critical weapon for huge historical figures like Mary Queen of Scots and even George Washington. And this right here just shows you the life or death stakes we're talking about. So you have Mary, Queen of Scots, locked up by her cousin, Queen Elizabeth I. She's using these sympathetic inks made from stuff like alum and nut gall to plot with her supporters. She thinks her messages are totally safe. But what she doesn't know is that Elizabeth's spymaster, a guy named Lord Walsingham, has already cracked her codes. He's intercepting and developing every single message. He just patiently waits, letting her dig her own grave, until he gets the one letter that seals her fate. And that led directly to her execution. A hidden message, once it's revealed, cost a queen her life. Of course, messing around with these chemicals wasn't exactly a walk in the park. Just ask the philosopher Jean-Jacques Rousseau. Back in 1736, he tried to mix up a popular recipe made from quicklime and orpiment, which, by the way, has arsenic sulfide in it. The whole mixture started fizzing like crazy, and the bottle just exploded right in his face. He almost died. He was blind for 6 weeks. It's a pretty harsh reminder that these early chemists were basically playing with fire. Okay, let's jump ahead to the 20th century, because with the World Wars, invisible ink graduated from just a tool for a few people to a full-blown weapon in a chemical arms race between nations. You had labs on both sides working around the clock to create the perfect, undetectable ink. Early in World War I, the Germans, well, they started simple. There was a group of agents in Britain that got nicknamed the lemon juice spies. Yeah, they got caught pretty quick. One guy literally had a lemon on him when they arrested him. Not a great look. But they learned fast. They started developing much more sophisticated inks, like argyrol, a silver compound. They hid chemicals in everyday items, like laxatives and headache powders. And they started using crazy diluted solutions that were almost impossible to find with the usual methods. But for every clever new ink, there was a clever new countermeasure. You had Allied censors opening 1 million pieces of mail a day. They became experts. First, they'd heat the letters the old school way. But then came a real breakthrough: iodine vapor. This stuff reacted to almost any change in the paper fibers, turning most secret writing a giveaway brown. They even developed these wild, multi-regent brushes to just sweep across a page and test for a bunch of chemicals all at once. The game was truly on. Now, the search for the perfect ink led to some, let's say, unorthodox solutions. British intelligence, which would soon become MI6, found a substance that was totally immune to that all-powerful iodine vapor test. That substance was semen. Yeah, This discovery led to the kind of cheeky motto, every man his own stylo. The head of the service even made a rule that agents had to use fresh ink for each letter because apparently it developed a pretty distinct smell over time, which you could imagine wasn't great for staying covert. But this arms race wasn't just about the ink. During World War II, the Allies got really clever and turned the paper itself into a weapon. The U.S. government printing office developed special stationery just for prisoners of war. Paper called Sensicoat was coated with a chemical that would turn bright green if any liquid touched it. Lemon juice, urine, some complex biochemical didn't matter. All of a sudden, the very act of writing a secret message would instantly give you away. Just a genius way to shut down a major intelligence pipeline. So after all that high-stakes spy stuff, you might be thinking, hey, can I try this at home? And the answer is absolutely, and you definitely don't need a top-secret lab. Let's really quickly look at a few simple, totally declassified recipes. The basics are honestly so simple. For a heat-activated ink, any acidic juice like lemon juice or even milk works perfectly. For a chemical reaction, try this. Write with a baking soda and water solution, let it dry, and then reveal it by just brushing it with grape juice. And for a modern twist, a lot of laundry detergents have these things called optical brighteners in them, and they'll glow super brightly under a UV blacklight. It's a really fun way to see these principles in action. Okay, picking our story back up, the Cold War. This really was the golden age of espionage. The science of secret writing became incredibly sophisticated. It moved way beyond just simple liquids and into entirely new ways of tricking people. One of the biggest breakthroughs came from the Soviet KGB and the East German Stasi. They called it the dry transfer method. See, instead of putting wet ink on paper, which could leave little clues like disturbed paper fibers, an agent would use a special sheet of paper that was soaked in a chemical like cerium oxalate. They'd stick it between two blank sheets, right on the top one, and the pressure would transfer an invisible chemical copy to the bottom sheet. Then, you just destroy the top two pages, and you're left with a message with no indentations, no moisture stains, absolutely nothing for a censor to find. This was a massive leap forward. But even in this super high-tech era, the oldest, simplest methods could still be a lifeline. Just listen to this incredible story about James Stockdale, a U.S. pilot held prisoner in the infamous Hanoi Hilton during the Vietnam War. His wife sent him what looked like a normal family photo, but something just felt off. As he said later, James Bond would soak it in piss and see if a message came out of it. So, that's what he did. And after it dried, a secret code from U.S. Naval Intelligence appeared on the back. It established a vital communication link. Just a stunning example of pure ingenuity under the worst conditions imaginable. So all of this brings us to a really important question. In our world of digital encryption and constant high-tech surveillance, is there really still a place for something as simple as invisible ink? You might be surprised by the answer. Okay, get this. In the 1990s, the Aryan Brotherhood coordinated a violent campaign between multiple high-security prisons using the most basic methods possible: citrus juice and urine. They'd write a message like "War with DC Blacks" and just pop it in the mail, and those letters sailed right past the censors. Why? Because in an age of high-tech surveillance, the guards were looking for complicated digital codes, not something you could reveal with a simple lighter. The oldest tricks in the book worked because they were hiding in plain sight. And if you need any more proof that this stuff is still relevant, think about this. The oldest classified documents the CIA ever released were from 1917 and 1918. And what was in them? Recipes for invisible ink. The agency held on to these World War I-era formulas, considering them a national security risk for almost 100 years. They argued that these basic techniques were the foundation of modern spycraft. That just goes to show you how valuable these secrets are still considered. And that really brings us to our final thought here. The history of invisible ink isn't just a story about spies and chemistry. It's a story about the timeless human need for privacy and secrecy. It shows us that sometimes the best way to hide something isn't to build some unbreakable digital vault, but to just make it seem like there's nothing there at all. It really makes you wonder, right? In our world of constant data streams and surveillance, what truly important messages are still floating by, completely unseen?